Okay, I have my end weaving done, and now I'm going to do a bar from edge to edge, and I've cut my red decorative 2-ply, and when I cut this, I cut 2 cords because I always attach one to the top of my loom, so I know I already have it cut for the other end, so I don't have to worry about how much and cutting it, so I always have it cut. So I cut 2 at once, and so I have for both ends. Now, this is where I recommend you keep notes. I have a note that 8 foot does 5 rows edge to edge, and that, let's see, 10 foot does 7 rows edge to edge. It depends on how tight you weave and how tight you pull. So this is where I recommend you keep notes. So I have 7 feet cut. And I'm going to put it around that last warp and pull it up, so that's exactly half. So I have 2 cords. Now this is what is called twining. It's an ancient technique that actually predates weaving. So you're actually twisting your warp between, or excuse me, you're twisting your yarn between the warps. So what is in front this time then becomes back next time. So what was behind is now in front. Now the way they form decorations is by whether you twist away from you or towards you. You can also do a full twist. So I'm doing a half twist, so what's in front now goes behind. So I just actually drop that, and then take the next cord, go behind that warp, making sure I pack it down tight this way, not pulling it this way. So I go behind that warp, drop that, take the next cord, and go behind that warp, the next warp. So I'm alternating the cords, going behind the warps, so this one is going over the top of the one that went behind. So again, this one is going over the top. So actually, they're twisting this way between the warps. So it may not be real obvious, but as they're twisting, they're actually laying in at a diagonal. So again, you're going to pack it nice and tight. And when you get to the end over here, you want to make sure that both cords go around that outside warp. So the one that's in back comes forward, the one that's forward goes back and around that last warp. So they're both around that last warp. Now, if you kept on doing the way you were doing, going over the top of that, you actually get a herringbone pattern because your diagonal isn't going this way anymore, it's going this way. So instead of going over the top, we're going to go underneath. So again, instead of going over, I'm going underneath. So you go underneath when you go right to left, and you go over when you go left to right. So I'm going to go underneath instead of over and around that warp, packing it down tightly. So I just reach underneath, go around that warp. So I'm going to reach underneath, go around that warp. Packing it down nice and tight. So you can see I'm going underneath instead of over. Backing it down nice and tight. Now I come to my last warp. I want to make sure they both go around that last warp. So the one that's in front goes clear around behind it, and the one that was in back comes forward. Now I'm going to go left to right, so I'm going to drop this. This one's going over the top instead of under. Now this one's going over the top, so when I go left to right, they go over the top. When I go right to left, they go under. So I should have enough cut to do about 5 rows. So again, I suggest you make notes on how much it takes for you to do, and you know how many feet it takes you to do so many rows. This is helpful because this cord is not inexpensive, so it kind of saves a little bit when you get to making more cinches. So again, I'm going over the top of that one. Okay, and I'm to the end. I want to make sure they both go around that last warp. So the one that's in front is going clear around behind, and the one that's in back is coming forward. Now I'm going right to left, so instead of going over, I'm going to go under that. And again, instead of going over, I'm going under, making sure I'm going around every warp, not skipping any warps. Again, it depends on how tight you're pulling it, whether you have enough to do 4, 5, or 6. And when I get to the last warp over here, I want to make sure I go around it with both of them. So the one that's in back comes forward, excuse me, forward. The one that's in forward goes clear around that last warp. And then I'm just going to go across again. It goes on top this time instead of under. So even though it doesn't show, they're actually laying in here at a diagonal, and they're all laying in at a diagonal this way. When we get to 2-color twining, you'll be able to see the diagonal easier than this plain color. So, back it down tight. And again, when I get to the end, I want to make sure I go around it with both cords. Now, that's as much as I can do with this cord. So I'm going to take a needle and I'm going to run this back down through alongside the warps, and I'm going to run this one back down so that the ends are hidden. And then I'm going on to do the triangle. We'll do a triangle next. So my yarn is already cut for the other end, so it's ready, but I'm not going to do the other end until I turn my cinch over. So you run your needle on, or your yarn on a needle, and again I try to run it through 2 different warps, and you can do this either now or when you take it off the loom or later. It doesn't really matter, but run it down until you feel that it's pretty in there, pretty secure, so it's not going to work its way out. And you can either go down all the way, or you can go down the red and up the red. It doesn't matter. Just so it doesn't show. So that one I went all the way down. I wanted to go just with the red. I go down the red. Making sure you pull it nice and neat so it looks neat. And then you can even go just up the red. You can even go down the red again. Just until you feel like the ends are secure and they aren't going to work themselves out. And then you're going to pull it up snug. Snip the ends off, and then they'll magically disappear back into the weaving. And again, on this one, I'm going to just snip it off. So just a couple different ways to do it. Now you have your end bar, 5 rows of twining. Now we're going to work on the triangle the next time. So again, remember, make notes on how much yarn it takes to do how many rows. And we'll catch you for the next one, which will be the end triangle. So thank you for watching.